Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So we are truly going to be spectating. You're going to see a lot of strange plays. You're going to learn a lot about positioning. We have fun arrows. We're going to look at gameplay. We're going to explain concepts in real time. We're going to pause things. We're going to talk about positioning. We're going to put maybe a smiley face every once in a while on screen. We're going to be doing a whole lot of fun stuff, and I promise you, you're going to learn a lot. This video is going to be long. It's going to be full of commentary. Just tons of educational commentary. So maybe you're not going to get through this video in one sitting. This is going to take 1, 2, 3, or 4 sittings. But one thing I can promise you is that you are going to see some questionable stuff, but you're also going to learn a lot from all these mistakes that you see. So let's go ahead and just talk a bit about that. And it's truly all spectating. All of it spectating. I hope this concept makes a whole lot of sense. Let's go ahead and talk right off the rip right here. The interesting thing that I see happen a lot is that people just stand out in the open. Remember, I talk about positioning and using cover. So when somebody peeks out here, and granted, when you know that somebody lands and everything of where they may position, but when you look, it's always good to have height, to be looking from a specific area best you can, like even further back, because this happens. Let's go and clear out and let's take a look at that. Boom, caught out, did a little bit of damage, but then has to reassess, and you go up to height anyways at the end of the day. But now they have information on you, and you've used your utility, and you're essentially now out of the fight, which is not good, because then your other teammates could get isolated in that fight. So we do see pings going out, which is also fantastic to do. Catching an opponent out. Now, this is one moment where you ask yourself, what is the difference between mechanical failure versus, let's say, positioning? Technically, they got lucky by the positioning by catching this person off guard. Their sights are completely over here. So if you happen to get the jump on an opponent, right, and you know that your teammate's blasting somebody over here and they happen to run over here as well, end up right here, you technically could have done more damage to them because you had the bigger opportunity. So let's take a look at that. Then you know, okay, I just need to clean it up. That's actually not a bad thing. I actually would prefer to know that it was a mechanical failure more than anything, because technically you could have knocked him, and that actually would have been fantastic to actually occur. So an unfortunate knock. Remember, positioning is key. Awareness. If you don't know where opponents are at, try to isolate and look for pings. And if you don't know where pings are, ask for information. Not having information means that you need to ask for it. And if you don't have it, then you tread carefully with positioning. Now, if you catch somebody else out, then hey, that's a big bonus. This series, and hopefully if you enjoy this format, which I'm really excited for you guys to just give me feedback on, let me know. Yes, it's going to be long, but I promise you we're going to learn a lot together. So buckle on in and save this video and come back, comment, leave a like, let me know, because like it puts a smile on my face, because I think we started to nail this. And throughout the years, I have listened to so much of your feedback, and I think we're going to finally nail it, and here it is. So again, they have a reset. The biggest problem that we also see is when you look at where they're looking down on the ground is always never a good thing. Also, how important it is to take height, that somebody after a fight takes height of some general area to make sure nobody's thirding. And also another thing to do is to look at your surrounding area before you land, so you know if somebody was going to third party or not. This is going to be a recurring theme. We're going to see a lot of questionable things. Despite this being plat pretty early on, these players were potentially diamond last season or even masters, which is pretty crazy, because I have seen some stuff here, ladies and gentlemen. I have seen some things, and you're gonna see some things with me, and then we'll be able to skip ahead and take a look at the rest of the fights. But it's just an encouragement. Also, make sure you know where your next loot rotation is. You know, afterwards, after a fight, can also be extremely helpful. So helps you with positioning, helps you know. The biggest problem you also see is that nobody really takes a look at the zone and thinks of a game plan of what you plan to do next. You know, take a look to say, hey, are we going to play edge, or are we going to fight a team when we see them? Just a little bit of strategy goes a really long way, and just kind of knowing. And even if you don't know, just taking a guess and just say, hey guys, we're going to loot, and then we're going to reconvene over here. Also, another big tip right here, I'm going to nitpick on this Pathfinder right here, is never use utility to get around, unless, I mean, you could be really confident, but the downside is, let's say if somebody were to appear, then you're just going to get caught out, and then you don't have utility because you just used it. And then if there's people looking, then you're pretty much screwed. You can use it to catch up. You can use it early on to speed up your loot rotation. I'm just kind of pointing out the flaws of doing that. So that's the kind of the downside of it. Now, using your ult is not a bad thing to kind of reposition here. I don't really have many issues with that. So I just always encourage, if you have utility usage, you're using it to kind of speed things up and you do it with purpose rather than just randomly doing it. It looks like this team is going to decide to, I guess, hit recon and rotate late. So we're going to take a look at that zone, and then we're going to kind of judge the zone where we think it's going to end and kind of break it down from there. Okay, so we're going to pause right here. Let's take a look. This is most likely going to be a rift ending, just based on what we... The reason why is I always kind of X out here, you know, you kind of X out the edges most likely, and usually it's going to take more or less the bigger part of the map this way. It's just an educated guess based on the zones. And sometimes it can be a 50-50 coin toss. You can usually see, okay, it might be over here, it might be over here, and then it just flips and you never know which one. So what we see here is that we have a team located out there outside of zone. So let's go and break this down. This is really educational, actually. This is so huge. I'm glad we're actually pausing here. Is that this is a lot of information just because you know where teams are at. You know that this team is either going to rotate this way or this way. If you start to fight here and they rotate this way, then anticipate a third party if you go into this fight, because you know that another team's going to rotate onto it. If you rotate this way, then you're going to run into the Hammond team, but anticipate that Hydra is going to be late to rotate on top of you. There are 16 squads remaining. So what does that mean? If we say 16 squads, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and let's just throw another random one, 16, right? That's still a possibility of where you could run into, right? I don't know if there's teams over here. I'm just throwing out numbers, right? Based on the remaining teams. So this is such a good visual for positioning. Okay, I love this already. I'm so excited. I get excited about teaching you guys. Okay, I get pumped. I'm excited. We're gonna be having fun. Okay, all right. Sorry, I digress. So let's take a look here. Now, the reason why this is interesting is that remember that there could be a team here, but then there's a team gating here or here, and then it just becomes clusters. This is why when we talk about this, you can anticipate where clusters are going to happen, right? If somebody has to rotate into zones and you see everyone, it's important to kind of understand what the rest of the lobby is doing and what could possibly occur based on the rotations and what they hear. So if you shoot here, what's going to happen? So let's simplify this a little bit, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just say like there might be a team, even though we haven't no one in turbine. Let's just say for argument's sake, they fly here, but then somebody hears it, and then we have this happen. That could very much happen in a lobby, and then half of it dies, and then you have the other half over here. It's just throwing all those things out there because they're so important and they actually make a massive difference in terms of your improvement. All right, so let's keep on going. That was a really fun breakdown. There was a lot to kind of digest there. It's just like, imagine what the rest of the lobby is doing and kind of picture it. And because of the way the new beacons work is that you can keep hitting them to keep garnering updates and rotating, because there's a beacon pretty much at every location. So there's that benefit. So we see them kind of land over here. We know that they're here. So there's going to be a few mistakes that happen here. It's crazy how many mistakes you can make in a game. One, not climbing up, using utility. Oh man, this one breaks my heart, ladies and gentlemen. Using utility to come up when you know they're over here, or they could be here, but you have no utility to push. Let's say like they do a lot of damage over here immediately. Well, the grapple just was used to climb up when you could have easily done it by just climbing or going through the building itself. Using utility this early, it just doesn't make sense. I always say the rule is, did you use it to garner positioning? Did you get a crack? Anything like that. But when you use it so early like this, you don't really gain much, and it causes you to lose your forward momentum because your utility is everything. Either utility to reset, utility to push. We also see them just kind of standing out in the open. You got to back up a little bit so then you can use this more as cover, right? Backing up a little bit helps. I mean, you can be pretty bold and stand out in the open. I mean, if you see that they're missing, you're standing open, they can't be that great. That tells you a lot of information right there, right? You don't necessarily, but selling isn't a bad thing. Holding height is, and so maintaining pressure, because you know there's two across and there's potentially somebody underneath. You know they're blasting somebody close by. So that's the information we got. So, okay, we know one's far left, we know one's on the right. What are we dealing with here? Now, this is really unfortunate, right? Because now the damage is done, they're going to push. You see how the utility is used immediately right there from the Ash? They immediately port in because that's their utility usage. Once they do the damage, this team knows what they're doing. The enemy team knows what they're doing by working their way in. Also, being aware of where your teammates are at. One thing is that if you look at the mini map, look who's flying in super late. Let's go back. There's only 2 people here this whole time. Being self-aware of your teammates, and I guarantee nobody really paid attention to this. Where's the lifeline? They are still all the way over there, right? It's very important that if you're going to peek and do damage, that you have to understand they have been self-assessing this whole time and say, hey, I think there's only 2 people here. And it takes a good while before the lifeline hops in here, and you're going to see them across the mini-map. I'm just going to do this in real time. I'm not even going to pause it. Ready? We're going to follow the trail here. So they go down. We have one person. They're going to try to use cover right here, right, at the bottom. And then we see the lifeline flying in here. And, yeah, the lifeline is like, well, that sucks. I can't really do much there. And just kind of backs out. They really took the fight on their own, which is, one, they tried to take positioning, but they didn't have the numbers, and the enemy team deciphered, hey, this is a weakness. But if you're going to peek and then take too much damage, then they're going to shove off of it. It's important to make sure that you're only peeking enough and you're isolating a 1v1, and if you're not winning that one, that you reposition, because you know that they're going to start to scale up and move up. And so I can't stress how important that is. All right, so unfortunately they do have to go for a bold rotation here to go craft. Here's another thing I see happening when it comes to positioning, is that you lose momentum in your positioning and garnering space as a support legend if you just run away all the time. Now, this lifeline could have communicated they were far behind. We don't know the full story because we're not listening to the comms. They get caught out here, and then stuff like this happens. You know, there's like, what are you gonna do, right? The only thing is say, hey guys, I'm not with you, or I'm further behind, or I can't push with you. All that goes a extremely long way. Now, this is going to be a really, really interesting fight that we're going to break down. And wow, this is going to be interesting. You're going to see why. And you're going to, okay, so reposition together. This is where Bangalt has a lot of pressure. It was smart to climb here, but Bangalts are there to kind of, you know, separate out a team. So even though I could argue and debate that this is bad, even though they're not all together, there's 2 here and they have their cross on the other side over there. So it's not the end of the world, because technically they should be able to look for them as long as they cover for them. And there's on the cross right here. But now we have a 2v3. Also, oh my gosh, this is bold. That's all I have to say. This is I don't even know. Standing out in the blatant open, you know, you could stand on the rock, or even if you were right here, maybe Newcastle Wall. I know they have their ult. Newcastle Wall, try to use the bit of the edge here, the rock, just to stand on top of afterwards, just for a little bit of cover. But standing out in the open right here against somebody when they could peek from over here, or that's bold. That is, I mean, you're pretty much saying to the enemy team, I'm better in every which way and I'm going to land every single shot, which they do land a pretty good amount of shots right there. But you see how the wall's here? Okay, so then taking the rock at least up, or taking another off angle so then you can take some positioning, or if you're going to full send it, just full send it and then use your tactical to move forward, right? But just standing just blatantly just right out in the open is just screaming, I am better in every which way with my positioning. And maybe you are. Maybe there's somebody. Comment down below if you are truly better. But this is the interesting part. You see, even though they kind of have some angles, it's hard to push the Valkyrie because the Valkyrie does have an angle over here. This is where Newcastle Wall really does help support, because you do have, it is cutting your hitbox low, and luckily they're here as they're moving up the Newcastle to pretty much provide some positioning and cover, which is, you know, hey, we'll take it. We'll take what we can see there. But I know that rock isn't perfect either, but it's always better to have some sort of height. This is crazy. So even though, okay, this is why do I say this is crazy? Okay, so the HP, right? Yes, they have the advantage, but my man just came in here flying right at them, right? When they haven't gotten a crack. Now, I can understand if this happened and they zip up and they maybe cracked one or cut their HP back even further to the point where all they had this, then sure, I can understand it. But because they don't have the positional advantage, because the Newcastle Wall is here and they're isolating themselves literally 2v1, it's going to favor the 2. It just is. It's just how it works. So they get all that damage. They put up a wall. One does go down, but because they were able to go for the trade, now we have a healthy fight on a 1v1. We have one person down, no damage, by the way, which is insane, against another player that is full, that's about to also peek here in a second. And boom. It's crazy. I am still shocked because, I mean, listen, the Newcastle just stood there out in the open, and then this happens, right? Because you want a fight to be done quickly as well. This fight took way too long. Okay, and the reason why this fight took long is because, you know, they didn't have proper positioning. They had ultimates delayed. Ultimates scream a lot of things. The Bangalore ultimate just told all the other teams that they're hard committed. That's another way to tell, is this team committed? Are you checking the kill feed? Are you looking at the upper right hand side to say, are there kills in the feed? What utility is being used? Is it going to be Bangalore ult? Is it going to be a Seer ult? Those things people don't use lightly, and if they do, then they're not very good, because they wouldn't just be like just throwing a random bang ult at something, because that's a lot of utility and pressure that can be used elsewhere. And if you're playing around Plat and Diamond Plus, you know utility is king, and so there is definitely a purpose on why you're using it. Let's keep on rocking though. So this has been very helpful. This team is rotating a little late, which is okay. I'm so confident it's gonna be one of my more favorite episodes I've ever posted for you guys. I'm jittery with excitement. So again, I'm pumped. I'm pumped with excitement. And there's just so much to teach here. Now, there's another theory as well. You're going to see here, look how much loot they're getting. It's why I encourage, after you're done with your POI, is to just continue to fight for positioning and those engagements, because people bring the loot to you. Rather than spending your whole game, I say you should spend the game playing the game rather than just looting. So we're going to spectate here Loba, because Loba's technically playing a bit of entry by moving forward. Now, they shouldn't be using utility just to kind of run forward. There was no reason to, but I mean, hey, if they want to take point, they can take point. It's perfectly fine. I just encourage not to just use utility willy-nilly unless you have a purpose. Just ask yourself what your purpose is. If you say my purpose is I want to take lead and take point, then it's justifiable, right? There is no right or wrong as long as you can justify it and it has a positive outcome. Sometimes the most strange plays can have the best outcomes, just as long as your positioning and your action was intended with a lot of positivity. Now, they have information. Here's another thing that you can see with Loba is that you know what's coming up when you can start seeing through walls and see how it looted the POI is. And of course, if you see death boxes, then that's pretty much an indicator that pretty much a lot happened here. They have information. They see that somebody was there. We know that based on the zone as well. Let's take a look at the zone. Again, it's going to pull up here. We do know that they're going to have an uphill battle this way, or they have to go this way, and they have to do it quick because this zone after 3 to 4 really hurts. So they got to make sure to clean this up efficiently or rotate to the better spot immediately. As the zone closes, your decision making becomes a lot tighter, and you can't just spend time doing absolutely nothing. Now, this is okay. This is not bad, but it also obstructs your view on the right side, because all you can see is just what's in front. So you know that the other side over here that you really can't see, but at least they are taking a bit of cover here. But there's a lot of information, especially when you saw somebody traverse this way, that you just can't see a lot. So that's also a concern. So you just got to, I mean, hopefully your teammates have that positioning and that they're looking. And there's the zone right there. It did pull up and rift. And so this is kind of hard. They're pinging stuff, but they know somebody's in front of them. Now, here's another thing that you can position right here. Use a staircase instead of just standing out in the open, because the staircase at least gives you some positioning. You can cross over, have the height, especially when you know that the other person kind of went this way. So then you have an angle. It's also a possibility. Let's see what they do here. Okay, they know they dropped. They got to be quick. Okay, this is where I always say watch out for the M&K rule, as if something's going to pop out in front of you. You need to start securing space, because remember, the time is of the essence, right? You only have 1:13, so you need to maintain pressure. They may not have seen you yet, but you need to start taking ideal positioning. You're going to take the height over here. You're going to take this spot. You're going to take this spot. How are you going to start edging them out? And if you can't do it quickly, then you rotate. Or, you know, you just have to start moving and value positioning, and then either say it's worth it or not worth it. And you're going to see what I'm talking about in just here in a second, because there's going to be some glaring errors. You're going to be like, what? So you know, okay, this is good information. You know where they're located, but you're not moving up on it. So initial damage has gone out. Taking angles. So there's hesitating happening with the Loba there, of where to position. And if you ask yourself, where do I position? Then maintain pressure somewhere. So this isn't bad. I will say, it isn't bad, but having height, if you peek here, then you're most likely peeking just down below. But just what you're gonna see some. Okay, just watch. Right? Okay. Dropping all that information is like the worst possible thing you can do. Yep. You got to check your angles. You got to check corners. You anticipate the worst. You know that they're located down there somewhere, but just dropping. I mean, I can't just. I mean. They're just what you know it's like we all make mistakes, it happens, but like you'd even look. And so yeah, I mean, you know, you know. And that's it. That's the fight. It's 35 seconds. Unless you can make an opening right now, it's not worth it, which is why the team starts to run. And okay, listen. We all make mistakes, okay? And I know this team is probably like saying like, what happened a little bit, but don't get mad at your teammates. Mistakes do happen, but also just learn from them. You know not to drop, you know, at least look for information. If you don't know where they're at, then look for it. And if you can't find them, then this fight is taking too long. We need to rotate and gate them. Because if it takes too long, let's say they're all huddled up in the corner over there, right? Then that's information. And of course, at this point, because they know it's a 3v2, they have the massive health advantage because I think almost all of them have red. So they're going to statistically win. But the downside, even with this team, look what happens. This is also crazy and a common mistake. Remember, I say time is of the essence, and even though the fight, you might have won and got some KP, look what's going to happen. Look, this is crazy. I feel like that one guy that's hanging out that's saying, that's crazy. Man, that's crazy. You know what I'm talking about? Because 3 to 4 hurts. And even if they get in, statistically with 6 squads remaining, like when we look at the number up here, 6 squads, okay? Now 5, you know somebody's going to be here or somebody around that angle. Like, it's just that math, right? And so because they waited here, they should have, and this is the whole point of spectating, positioning, right? Go more into the zone and fight for positioning because you know you don't want to get gated. And it's not because you are scared of the fight or anything. It's because you know that this happens. Well, not that. I'm not really sure what happened there, but we knew that there was gonna be two. That my man just kind of gave up at that point. He was like, "Nah, I'm out." Also, you saw earlier there was 2 heat shields. You know, spare out your heat shields. Communication on utility is important. Don't overlap on it. But this is a common scenario. I promise you, based on all the positioning and people commenting, they're like, I am similar to this team that gets caught out and gets gated. It's because you were fighting outside a zone when there's a minute left and you didn't clean up fast enough. And if you didn't clean the fight up, then you go fight in zone for positioning. Don't think any lesser of yourself. Please don't think any lesser of yourself. You are doing just fine. Please don't think of yourself as like a worse player for doing that. Positioning is key. And you're going to see that because of positioning, a team like this, I don't mean to judge too hard, but you know, okay, I'm trying to give you some confidence here, is that positioning is key, that even if you think a team is bad, if they have better positioning, they're going to win, because they're going to do some glaring mistakes here too. In fact, this team doesn't even have to go very far. I even showed like my cursor there. They have the zone, and it's going to be shocking what you see, okay? Absolutely shocking. Oh, we do see R90 in Mozambique, so we got a Wraith who's going to play entry, but doesn't ever play entry. Occupying space is important, okay? So we look at this and we say, okay, based on the mini-map, we want to make sure somebody positioned here, you know, maintaining pressure. I mean, even if you were to, just as much pressure as you can to make sure you stave off teams, to pretty much tell them not to appear, right? Even if everybody's looking. And it's simple because, you're here right here. This isn't bad to move up, but what I will say, it's very strange to go inside and close the door behind you. Like, because then you're just a sitting duck in the room by yourself. That's kind of strange. Take the roof of the building and maintain pressure and presence to stave off teams. That's important. But they kind of panic a little bit. Have some confidence just to kind of sit on the roof. You got cover up there. And if you do get cracked, then you back up and then you port back and you use your utility. And if they happen to push you, then you have your teammates that are happen to be up here that are looking. This is one crazy thing. Okay, make sure that if somebody is looting, that other people are watching too, because like everyone's in the death and the boxes. Look at all of them are over here, looking right here, and you only have one person potentially looking. It's pretty crazy, and then you're gonna miss things, right? Look at these teams starting to like take space and move around, and you're not maintaining any pressure to defend your territory. I think that's another word. Just defend your territory. You don't always need to show presence, but defend your space, because you don't want somebody to accidentally walk up on you. Even if you're not good, even just showcasing a body will tell another team to not take the space, you know, that this is yours. Okay, another thing for utility. Just this is kind of bold. I'm really shocked that they missed the other person. It's like they're like Neo. Try not to stand out in the open. I know they're trying to be on target, but remember, I got really lucky here. Like, the bullets are just flying by, you know, and then, yeah, that's crazy. Movement is important, but I mean, keeping your hitboxes small is important. I think they accidentally crafted ammo. I'm not really sure what the purpose was here because they have ammo. I feel like a lot of people, they start panicking when they start shooting as if you're going to run out of ammo. I actually encourage people to, it's okay to miss and take more shots because you're going to showcase presence. If you end the game with pretty much perfect ammo count, then you were extremely efficient with your utility. There's a lot of cracks here. You may be asking yourself, well then, should they push? Should this team give up the positioning to push these guys right here? It's debatable because the problem is that they're 4 squads. So if they go in on this and they have king positioning, they have this side of the map, and they go on to it, guess what? Somebody could rotate this way and take their spot from them, or they could third them afterwards if it's not clean. I would argue that the utility usage here was a little too early, even though they got a lot of damage, and they could save it for later for when they need to stave off a team. That's probably because then what is the purpose of your utility, right? What was the purpose of using it? And then if all it did was kind of burn the resources and they have like 10 bats, then it really didn't do a whole lot. Now they know you don't have fuse ult, which is kind of important. It's like if you know that they use bang ult, like let's say you use bang ult and the zone wasn't even closing and they're all inside the building, that you know that bang ult didn't do anything. So even though they did damage, you know that you weren't going to act upon it. And it would be very nice to have it later here. I do respect the fuse putting pressure, but one thing to practice is to make sure that you can put the pressure while still moving a little bit. And you can practice that in the range. And that's just a little bit uncomfortable. That's why I say the range is so important. It can really help you a lot. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. I'm having a lot of fun. I try to share as many tips. Everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. There's definitely... Have some confidence that you see other people making similar mistakes because it doesn't matter your rank. I have seen... Everyone does questionable stuff. Everyone does. It happens. It's okay. It's okay, but you are much better of a player than you give yourself credit for. As long as you take position, you play as a team. Playing as a team. This is where I say this. Okay. Ready. Okay, we're gonna talk about this. Ready? So this is where I would say the fuse ult would be really powerful. So then you know exactly where people are at as they're moving in. This is where it'd be a lot more beneficial to use as like a gate. So then, because there's only so much space that the ult is going to be in, which is very powerful, and you can start picking people off and doing damage, and you know that this count is going to drop really, really quickly. Now, there is that concern on the right team. It's okay. But this team is doing a great job by not overextending. I don't think they should overextend. I think they're perfectly fine by where they're at. Because the other two teams have to fight first. And if you look at the zone on the right-hand side over there, you see this right here? The zone is actually pulling towards them. Now, there is a downside here that they do have height. But this is why I say it's important to maintain pressure. Is that they can't actually stand up there effectively, and they should be getting shot in the back here in a second, which is also kind of shocking. This is a Wraith port to kind of save them. It's hard because this upper part is the game-winning spot when the other teams are fighting, right? And we see in the feed something's happening over there. We see things are starting to develop and they're going to get blasted, you know? All we got to do is they have to wait and be patient. That's why they didn't get pushed. You're probably wondering, they got the knock. Why didn't they push? Well, it's because they know there's a team on the other side. This is a good use of the utility here, by the way, for using a Mobi for cover. That is helpful. I think the biggest mistake here is that the team just had to wait. And this is a better fuse ult. Probably a little too early because they haven't really fought. I think they're burning them. Nice. The other person looks like they dies his own. Now they're burning a little bit, but they didn't have to move yet. They could have waited because this other team either peaks on a height, right? But they still have the zone technically here. And then when they go in, they kind of go in one at a time, not as a team. They should have gone as like a giant amoeba, you know, going towards them. But you're going to see what I'm talking about, where they kind of take 1v1s. And I can see where the fire was helpful. Maybe if they knew who they were isolating out in the flames. So having a little bit of purpose there. Because I see the vision on the ult. I really do. I do see the vision. Now, standing out in the open, okay, this is rough. That's why I say amoeba time, amoeba movement. Be a team. But standing out in the open and looking at them is not good because then it's, you know, what if you got cracked and knocked for free? Also, there's no reason to knuckle cluster. Always prioritize shooting your gun. You know, doing damage first and foremost. There's a issue of what to prioritize here. Now they're all running in one at a time. It's a 1v3 going on up there. And they essentially all go up. Okay, I'm going to go up by myself now. But they're all kind of, the other team is playing as a team. This team is pushing individually when they didn't even need to push right away. And if they did push, they could have used the ultimate to catch them out and find some positioning. And it's crazy because they lose. I mean, they had the better positioning. I actually would have betted on this team based on position that they should have statistically won. But here we are, and we're gonna go on to game number 2. We have 3 games. This is a long video, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very long. It's very, very long. So you're not gonna get through this video in one sitting, but I'm gonna cover the same themes over and over again, because I promise you, you're gonna see in the video that it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I mean, that's the beauty. This is why, you know, things happen the way they do. Now, unfortunately, in this footage, this one, we're not going to have as much audio in the background. It was kind of crackly. I'm not really sure why. The audio seemed to have broken, which is okay. So I'm not going to leave that static in there. So you're going to see some interesting plays here. This was also pretty interesting. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. So one, they're friendly DC'd. Okay, that's very unfortunate. Their teammate DC'd, so they get out. I understand that. It kind of makes sense, but if your team is DC'd, then you don't necessarily want to drop hot. So we see the lifeline pretty much taking a different direction, the Lobo going a different direction. A bit of panicking happens. Breathing goes a really long way. Think about where you're going to position, where you're going to go. We have some thoughts here, but just breathe. I think sometimes a lot of people, when they're fighting for positioning and going to a certain spot, you're going to see it here. You got to take a second to slow things down. I know there's a lot going on. Just mix inputs, and then it gets worse. Just breathe. Oh, you know, and just, yeah, it's so you know, things happen. Okay, listen, I have embarrassed myself many times too. So, you know, I think I saw some in the corner of my eye over there just a second ago. I guess this team does get kind of lucky based on where they're rotating, to be fair. Let's see how they decide to handle it, though. Let's take a look. How they position. What I'll do in this portion is I'll probably run more background music here compared to the other one. So just to kind of vary it up a little bit. I want you guys to comment down below. So what I'll do is for each round, I'll do something a little different. The first one, I won't, well, unless I pause, I'll put music. But for this one, I'm going to just run music underneath because I don't have gameplay. And you're going to tell me which one you prefer. And that'll be helpful. So this team, also, look how long it takes the lifeline to heal. Prioritize healing and then position. It takes forever for the lifeline to heal because this whole time they haven't healed. They're going to heal in a minute. But if you think about how long it's been from where they ran to, healing is probably the utmost importance just to at least get healthy. Because somebody hits you, especially with the health bars now, they're going to know that you're just flesh running around, which is crazy. You don't want them to know that. Like, let's say, for example, this Vantage hit them right there and they didn't heal up. Then they know, then they're going to shove. Also, they know they're a duo because of Vantage. So that gives you information, right? Information is important. That tells you this positioning is not strong and then you have to run. Which I think they kind of assess that and they run away. But that's the hard part. And sometimes you do have games where maybe a third DCs and you just have to hard play the edge. It's hard to position the center now. Because of like Vantage and like those type of legends, because I mean they have information against you, so just play it as, you know, smart as possible, and then just look for third parties is probably the best advice I can give positioning wise, because you don't want a team to kind of decipher who you are and then what you do, unless you're showcasing a lot of presence. Sometimes I've held as a duo and held off a 3-stack because they're afraid because you've done damage. If you can do that, then you can hold center. Just kind of know your strengths and weaknesses and what positioning you can hold versus the ones that you can't. And that'll give you information if you are a center zone team or you play edge. And those give you some deciphering decisions in terms of positioning. That can be also very, very helpful. So we have this poor team just kind of rotating, kind of finding their way. And trust me, it may seem like lots not going on, but if you look at the kill feed, that gives you a lot of information right here, which means that you can kind of get involved. This is tons of information, especially if the lobby has 18 and you see that popping off as much as it is. You know that if there's a lot of fighting going on, that you can technically engage in something a little early. They do see some people over here on the far left side, which is pretty interesting here, because they see them. But they have a few things they could do. They know that there's possibly the Vantage team chasing. That's also a possibility. They know there's only 16 squads this early on and that we see so much happening in the feed. They could try to do some damage here. I would probably advise still just going to zone and looking for that clean third party. A knock, that's information. If they wanted to, they could move up on that knock. That is a possibility, right? You're going to see some Okay, here's another mistake. Standing out in the open. Look at this. Don't do that. Do not do this. You need to go for the better positioning over on that spot, but just don't stand in the open. You never know who's going to turn and shoot. Always try to shoot first behind cover, and then make sure that you have your cross of your teammate, that you're playing off of your teammates. This is so much of a team game that no matter if you play solo or not, if you even play solo and you're watching any of your favorite YouTubers, they are, okay, I'm going to pause it. What in the world is going on here? Okay. Is that YouTubers also use positioning a lot, and they'll use their teammates as fodder. And even if they're playing by themselves, they'll make sure to, I call it disinformation. This is giving information to this team that you're running up. The first thing you should be doing is just blasting your gun. This utility is used whenever somebody's behind cover. Now, if you're late, that's fine, but you just need to run up and then try to catch somebody up, because right now you're by yourself. This person could have a 2v1, right? Because you don't know quite yet, but you're further behind. So shoot first, ask questions later is probably the better advice. Because I mean, yeah, there's just they decide to fight something. This is also strange because they didn't go fight the team that had a knock, right? When they know like somebody was knocked over here, but then they're fighting this because then they know that this other team's going to say hi, right? They're going to come say hi to them at some point. We know that there's a lot going on in the kill feed. Some questionable things going on. And there's going to be another tip coming up here. Have out your gun. Okay, like when you're running around, you just run up. You don't need to have your utility out. Slide jump. One thing we're missing here is a lot of slide jumping towards your positioning. Notice how, yes, I'm using the word positioning a lot. Everything ties to positioning. Positioning is king. But also having like, where's the slide jumping? Put away your gun, slide jump. Because then you can get to your positioning faster and getting to the spot you need to go to. Okay, so we know, we didn't see how many came out. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, one came out. That means that there's two that are unaccounted for. We have our teammate in front of us here. Our positioning is very out in the open right now, unless we can isolate one out. If there's one over here, then we just jump on them, right? You gotta jump on them. Let's see what they do. Okay, let's take a look. All right. So we know there was one over here. Okay, there's this information. This is where you prioritize the biggest threat positioning wise. This person is positioned a mile away. You know that there's possibly one or two over here. So shooting this person doesn't net you any value, because even if you get a knock, you still got to deal with the two over here in this spot, right? And also your teammate is by themselves over here, so that's kind of unfortunate. So a whole magazine goes out, and then they go down, and that's unfortunate. Now, you see how their positioning is much better, even though they're on the low ground? Their hitbox is so small right here, and then your body's fully exposed, and now they're running up at you. Prioritizing information. The grenade was a little loud. They could have run up, caught somebody off guard. Don't shoot the person furthest away. Try to make the self-assessment. There's no reason to have a grenade out in your hand. It was very bold. They got the stick, but it's not going to do very much. Even if you got the knock at that point. You got to help your teammate. You got to help your teammates. Teammates are important. They're your friends. I know it seems like they're your enemies, but I promise you, they are your friends, not food. They are your best friends. Treat them as your friends, please. I mean, it's a team-based game. So play as a team, play positioning as a team, play smart, be smart. Now, we know they probably heard the other team from behind, so that's kind of why they're looking this way. Their positioning isn't awful. What I do appreciate is that they're all looking different angles to look. If you look, they're kind of having, like, at one point they had like a triangle formation. So they're all looking for information. So that's a positive. That's really good. That's not bad. I do think there's a few mistakes that happen here. Okay, so this is not bad. They do have, now you don't necessarily have to take, I'll say this, okay? In terms of positioning. If an opponent has their back to you, you can stay out in the open to shoot them, because it's like the rule of three. Like, number one, positioning wise, are they looking away? Two, do you have better armor than them? And then three, like, I guess utility and where your teammates are. If there's, let's say for example, you all three could stand out in the open versus one person, and that's fine because you know you're going to outweigh them. And then the other person's at fault, right? That's one. But if they're looking this way, right? And then you come up from behind here, you don't necessarily need to go hide because you know they're looking elsewhere. And you should win the encounter, especially based on what we're seeing right here. That's good damage. Now move up. Now you have your teammates. This is good positioning. That I like what the Octane is thinking here, because they take height. This is really good. This is really positive. This is really good. They do a significant damage. Oh my gosh, they're so close. And they're going to take another angle here. Now I know their teammates a little damaged in the back, which is okay. But now you don't necessarily need to give up the positioning, right? One mistake that we're going to see here is just the running away. One, it's not good to run away, especially when they've just shot you and you're flying right up in the air away from them. If you just stop there and then healed, your teammates can still be there. Because remember, you've already damaged one and almost took them out, and you have one that was kind of caught out. And it's not the end of the world yet. It's not over yet. So you don't necessarily have to worry. But when you see the positioning run in the open, because they're just going from roof to roof, but they've given the opponent space. They've kind of respected them. And you don't want to respect their space. You want to hold positioning, but also trust that your teammates are going to be there. Now, a lot of damage does come out from here. And yeah, maybe they're going to push, but realistically, this is why I say this. Remember, the reason why they're pushing is because they're screaming that they did damage. But if your teammates are watching on the roof and they see them jump on top of you here, then they're going to have the angles as you move back a little bit. And you should be okay if they have your cross. That's why it's important to have your teammates cross and understand the positioning of your opponents. Very, very beneficial. It's just so close. In terms of damage, it is so close. It's crazy. And this is where you can move up. This is the option to move up. But they give them a lot of time because remember, if we time 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they have at least gotten a battery off, and that I've already given way more enough time so that kind of fight has been kind of over, and then they get shot from somebody else. So now the fight no longer has value. You've already burned through some resources and some healing. This is why it's important when you get to the end game, you say, oh, we have no resources. Then you ask yourself, well, when we were positioning earlier for a fight, were we able to get those resources from that fight? And then was it a waste? How many cells, how many batteries did we waste from this? And were we able to recoup our losses and resources from that encounter? That is so important. I mean, this is really close. I do appreciate the positioning, though, like I said. I know it's also hard. Like, you see how, like, I mean, they have cover and they're looking forward. This is pretty solid. They got height. They're looking. I also understand the fear of maybe not trusting your teammates. You know, you're like, oh, are they going to cover me? I think some of the best advice is just trust them. And if it goes wrong, then you know that you went for the optimal play rather than the scared play. And if they don't, you know, reciprocate or give you what you're looking for, then it's okay. That stuff happens. Don't get mad. At least you know that you went for the best play and did the absolute best that you could. So this team is opting to rotate because, you know, the zone is closing. They have a pretty big rotation to go from all the way this way. It'll take a little bit to get all the way over there. See, I mean, we got, okay, also what's crazy is that the Octane has Mozam. 80 bullets is a little much in terms of resources. Realistically, you probably only need like 40. So they got a lot in terms of inventory, but they have hammer points, which means that they're really set for. Yeah, I mean they're set, you know, like GG's. So let's take a look how this next fight plays out in the rotation. I'm gonna let this run because I think it's important. They're gonna have some space. 11 squads, so the possibility of running into a team. You know that there was possibly like a team, the two teams, right, and that they are gonna rotate that way. So it's not impossible to think that you're gonna run into somebody over here. Not unheard of. I don't necessarily have anything wrong with this. I mean, this could have also played just differently, that even if they had covered, that the fight could have taken too long. And that's okay too. I think this team, if they played together and had a little more trust, I think they actually really could have clutched out a lot more there. I'm confident they could have. So, okay, we see somebody land on height. We saw that right there. Running up here. A little bold by themselves because we have the other teammates that are further back, but it's okay. This is strange. Whenever, I mean, granted you need batteries and resources, but don't loot necessarily whenever you know that a team is nearby and you need to pressure, right? Priorities. Priorities is always look for position threats and positioning, and then if you have a moment, then you can go back and loot. This is also really bold by shooting out in the open because you don't really know what's around you. You can get caught out. So make sure that you do it behind cover, which is, you know, better to do it back here. At least you can back out. Okay, this looks like it was a solo Valk, so I don't think anything's going to happen right there. They go bye-bye, they fly. And it's fine to shoot. I have no issue with, you know, blasting away, maintaining pressure. That's fine. But being aware of your teammates is just, it's invaluable, ladies and gentlemen. Just positioning is a theme. And I hope that you are able to learn a lot. Now, Zone 3 to 4, they should start valuing getting into the zone as soon as possible, or bullying their way in and fighting for spots if they're going to fight for the edge. Because the last thing you want to do is battle the zone as well as an opponent, as an enemy team. Because the enemy team could be really bad, but the zone is going to do just as much damage. This is a big red flag. There's no use for utility yet. You're going to see why. One, you're going to see them stand in the open. Okay, there's no cover, right? They get blasted from behind. Guess what? It would have been really great to have that jump pad. Also assessing what you see around, and you see the knock here. Luckily, their teammates are providing cover best they can. So we have a team on the left, we have a team on the right. And I think they should be able to get the res off because of where they are positioned. This is better positioning, but they need to get into zone. But yeah, that jump pad just didn't do them any favors. You know, it was a little too soon. It was loud. Jump pads are very, very loud. So having that later by moving up would have been a lot better. This is better positioning because at least you can use this as cover. It's not ideal because the reason I say it's not ideal because you want to fight for the center, right? But also they were very loud and kind of giving up their space already. So that was kind of unfortunate. The rock, this is good. You know what the lifeline is doing here. See, cover when they're standing out in the open. So that's pretty good. This is great. It means that even if they were to shoot, that this is really hard, right? For them, like this area is just fantastic. And they're able to do a lot of damage. And remember I know the Octane's being bold there, but they do have hammers. And I think they whiff, which is unfortunate. Essentially, Octane is playing entry there. Lifeline does a lot of great work being positioning-wise, holding spot. I think the other team ran in, so they got a little lucky in positioning, knowing that the other team didn't push back on them. But again, it would have been nice to have the jump pad to push in on a fight instead. Use it for the rotation. They're going to have it here in a minute, and you'll see why it's so important. So don't blow your utility too early, but don't try to use it too late. You got to find that sweet spot. Remember, positioning wise, did I do damage? What am I going to position for? All that fun stuff. Now, again, remember, time is of the essence, right? Another theme. You might have won this fight, but now you got to fight in. If they're fighting here, which they ping, you need to find positioning to get into zone ASAP, right? You have 40 seconds. So if you spend too much time messing around, okay, so the kill feed, we just saw information. We had a knock, right? So technically they could move up on this, and this is where the jump pad and moving in is important. And I think the Octane should have an extra one. I know it's kind of hard to see because we're spectating, right? There it is, and so they go in. It's a little late, but they definitely got some knocks on that kill feed that could have happened sooner. Now, whiffs happen. They do happen. That definitely happened there. So, because I mean, we've seen that happen earlier with them. So if you happen to be whiffing, value positioning first rather than just barreling. And sometimes you may be having a bad day. And that happens. You know you're having a bad day, then don't continue to do X, Y, and Z because you know it's going to continue to be a bad day. You know what I mean? Try to change up your tactics just a little bit. Also tanking a lot here. It's very bold. I know they have to worry about positioning, but it's also why it was important. Like I said, they sped up going here, then going there, because now they're under crunch, right? There's 5 squads remaining. They know somebody's here. They know somebody's over here. I can also, that would be 5, right? That's kind of guessing based on what we see. The most realistic thing that's going to happen. They do get pretty lucky moving up here. They are able to contest the bottom because they're up top. So that's not bad. Now, this is very bold because, I mean, realistically, the team should, I think what they do, they appear over there later, but they got really lucky with that. And the fact that nobody pushed them afterwards, they got really lucky. But you know, the good thing is that the luck kind of worked out in their favor because it does give them the zone, which is helpful. Because now the tower team has to leave and this team has to go. And we know there was somebody in the back, and there's probably somebody over there, because there's still 5. So, you know, positioning is why I can't stress it enough. I think I just saw somebody in the corner of my eye go this way, if I'm not mistaken. Good amount of damage there. This is good pressure. I know the standing out in the open there is not ideal, but at the same time, I mean, the Octane's pretty confident. Sometimes if you're confident you're confident you're shot, right? That's why I say, if you're going to do it, you better say, I can do this. And you'll know, based on your strength and weaknesses, if you can do it. But at least they're all peeking different spots. You know, they're all not just looking at one spot. You notice, like, looking, you know, they're all looking at, for the most part, they're all kind of making sure they're maintaining pressure in so many different spots. You need to ask yourself, excuse me, who's the biggest threat? Now, this is the biggest threat, and this is a bigger threat. This threat should move here, and these people are going to move up here. So this is why this threat becomes the most important. Because if this was a team of 3, they probably would have lost this. But they kind of let them walk up for free. You know, they didn't pressure them as the zone came in. They just kind of let him like run wild, you know? And yeah, this is why I say utility. This was very strange utility usage. They almost threw here. They threw their friend across the other side. I'm not really sure why the jump pad is there. I'm going to be honest. It was very strange. The lifeline was clearly surprised, so it wasn't communicated. So I don't think they're in a call together. Got to be playing as randoms, but that utility, I mean, realistically, this team, the fact that they got so lucky that they didn't look at them from there and that they moved this way to go fight is extremely lucky. Wow, you know? That doesn't happen every day. This is not bad. You got some cover right here. Now, it's probably better to use a spray weapon. I know Mozambiques are really strong, so I guess it's not the end of the world, but this is pretty strong positioning. Look at that. They catch somebody out right there. They're moving as a conglomerate. They're getting knocked. They see it. There's no reason to push in quite yet because, I mean, you're just kind of picking on stuff. The zone is literally pulling on top of them, so the only downside is that they're all peeking the same spot over here, which is not ideal. It'd be nice to have somebody hold the roof over here at least, just to maintain pressure. Gets that drone. They catch somebody out here, really solid. They can move up on that. That's a dub because, you know, the health advantage. The health advantage. Okay. I know. Listen. We all whiff, all right? I was like, the health advantage. You could do this. You could do this. But now, I mean, they got this. I mean, they're fighting still. They take height. I would say not to drop down just in case, you know? And there it is. GG's. A lot of mistakes here, and they got pretty lucky. Some of it was like the Ashport. It wasn't bad because they got zone. Maybe it was a panic, but still, things kind of worked out in their favor. And I think when you see them take positioning, that's why it works. That's why they're able to clutch out and have the moments that they did because they were using positioning, such as the lifeline behind the rock, and that's why it really works. All right, so we're going into the last one, ladies and gentlemen. Last one. Let's see if the audio works in this one. If not, I'll just overlay music again. Okay, this one we have audio. So give me a comment down below on how you feel about having just music or audio. So you got two different versions, so you get to have both. So that's also a positive. We're kind of back at this positioning. Again, taking height is more important. There's a theme here. It's a common theme, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't be talking about it unless I see it happen all the time. And I'm always happy to see it. Listen, I'm more than happy to beam people who just stand out in the open. Now, sometimes they'll stand in the open and they shoot you. This one's weird, okay? Ready? No cover. I know they're slicing the pie to look for information. Be better just to do it up top. But just standing out in the open like this is really, it's exuding confidence. So they do catch him out, but it would be better if they kind of caught him out to where they had some cover, because now they have information. They know it was a Newcastle and a Seer. Just spraying and praying, but they're standing out in the open again, which is also the downside, because then you see the damage go out. Now, if they did that much damage, I'd almost encourage just to go swing it and go big at that point. If you're going to do that. Tactical is it works. It works. You know, they got him out. This fight gets really, really messy. It's a messy fight off drop. And if there was two teams here, then it gets even worse. This Loba is extremely bold and just being out there. Now, they're doing damage, so I can respect that. But let's just imagine if they're kind of playing with their team and just taking height, positioning, looking at stuff, and then going. You know, like I have no issue with aggression. I have no issue with playing slow and positioning. Just justify it, right? This is where I would say Rampart, go for it. The hesitation also is what caused this delay, even though it's just a second, right? Let's take a look at how that second matters right here. Push forward. 1, 2. They got away now. And then you hear it, right? That's enough for them to get away. That's enough. That's all it takes. But because of that, now you hear the res. Yep, and now they're running towards it. But they could have gotten them instead. But then you're going to see what happens here. Now, they should have heard this. They don't. And they do get the 2 knocks, so that works. But because there's hesitating, and there's the cause of concern and worry, and maintaining positioning and momentum, it causes delays, right? Because they could, at this point, they need to go for a res, right? Or position over, because look at the biggest mistake that happens here. Ready? I'm gonna let it roll out. Okay, the Seer puts an ult, because now it makes it harder for them to push. You know they had a Newcastle, Revenant, and a seer. There's the res. They just resed. Right? Now they're at a disadvantage because now it's going to be a 3v1 in a second. And they're going to have issues even going for this because they're going to know they're in that ultimate. Now, the Rampart, I would say it's very nitpicky. They really didn't do a whole lot wrong because they did damage. They did their best to try to play for the squad. But that hesitation caused that, and now here we are. Because of hesitation, the fight took too long, and they're getting thirded. Because it was a long fight. It was a long fight, unfortunately. And now they have to run. One thing I would say, make sure you're always slide jumping. Everyone jokes in my videos and says, Daz, it feels like you're covering so much basic fundamentals, but you're not seeing proper slide jumping here, which is huge to reposition and get to a perfect spot. If you look, the timing is just off. It's slide, jump, wait, slide, jump, wait. You know, then like, but you're not seeing it happen here, and people wonder why they fall behind. And you can judge me all I want, but I still see it happening, right? Prioritizing your mechanics and what you're doing. When do you put away your gun? When are you going to slide jump? When are you going to position? When are you going to use utility? It seems so basic, but I promise you, everyone makes a mistake. It happens. I make the mistake. Everyone makes a mistake. So you can't knock on the fundamentals because just like any coach will tell you, we're going to go back to fundamentals. And that's why. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, we go back to fundamentals because they're key to improving. You can never escape them no matter how good you are. A free throw is a free throw at the end of the day. All right, so we do know there was a team on the far left. I want to point out that this Rampart knows what they're doing. And when we're nitpicking, we're only nitpicking a few seconds. And as you start going up, those few seconds are the difference between getting into the right spot or being in the wrong spot. And people will say, well, it just seems like you're being too harsh. But, I mean, otherwise it would be a different outcome. And trust me, I've had moments from like, oh gosh, you can feel the internal clock and you know that's happening. Okay, so good positioning. They got the res. They need to back up immediately from this because they're taking too much damage. Now, they don't have to give up height though. They didn't need to give up height and they could have shot the crypto drum, but they took way too much damage from the Maggie tactical, which the Maggie putting the tactical was great, by the way. Also, they need to heal up. Even though they are watching for them, healing up is really, really huge. So unfortunately, because of that, they have no information and they get caught out. Okay, I don't know what else. Okay, I don't know what to say about this. Okay, don't shoot the Maggie ball. I'll say it again. Do not shoot the Maggie ball. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. Why? I think the Rampart did fine. Let's go back to fundamentals. Positioning. All right. Go back to, I mean, the Rampart did great. You know, you didn't have to give up the height right away. Maintain pressure. Talk to your teammates. Give them confidence. If they're not confident, then leave. I don't know if there was, okay, so I don't know if there was some sort of debate here. What happened between these guys, but this happened. Now, if they saw what I saw, and I saw my Loba shooting a Maggie ball, that would definitely be concerning. Also have some faith in your teammates. Yeah, I'm a loss for words. Okay, well, nonetheless, they finished that fight. Now, resing is gonna well, there's the ult right there. Now, you don't necessarily have to run right away. This was extremely crazy that they did this, okay? Let's point this out. If you take damage, and I see an Octane jump padding away, usually the utility like this screams, I'm not confident, right? Which is why they push in. So this Octane just abandoned their team, but they're also respawning. But also, look what the lifeline pulls off. Look at that. Kudos to this lifeline. We've been seeing a lot of great lifelines today. Like, really great stuff from lifelines, you know? Now, they did stand out in the open afterwards. They got the re-knock. I can't tell with spectating, but man, their shots are kind of on point. Now, a little lost on where to position, but that's, you know, I guess that happens, sure. That's why it's important to calm. The Octane shows up a little late, and that's why I say, you know, have a little faith with your teammates, especially if you have cover. It's not the end of the world because it's not like they were in a bad position. Even though they're on low ground, they still have cover where they were located, right? If it was still blocking at least half the screen that you saw, which is still a dub. And they got this, which is, you know, clap, 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 good, 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 good. But now all they got to do is rotate. We got a 2006 Nissan. And we got the rotation. I want to say these rounds have been really great. I haven't really needed to cut very much just because so much has been happening and so many tips. And if you enjoy this, again, a much longer video, but I am excited to see your feedback. And I know you're not going to get through this in one sitting. If you did, comment down below if you actually sat down and watched this in one sitting, because the whole premise of this video is that you didn't need to, but hey, I really appreciate it. I assume the idea was to save this for later, watch it for 20, watch it back, listen for tips, hear things out. Now, their positioning is at the end of the world here. We'll say that. I mean, they're rotating, they're playing edge, they have good resources. Things are looking not too bad for these guys. I'd say it's a positive. I'll just kind of let it run. Just kind of like relax for a minute. I get myself a moment to kind of breathe. You can kind of just see the rotation, the crafting. It's normal. There's a lot of heals, a lot of resources. Now, 7 squads. Now, this is interesting because they're about to run into a team that looked ahead. 7 squads, if they fight here, and with only round 2, that kind of gives you confidence that you can fight at this spot. Now, this kind of tells you 2 things. If there's somebody's over here and then somebody's up top, how many teams are located here? With 7 squads, half the lobby is located in this area. This is good cover, by the way. This is good to use right here. Now, once you have good cover, you can kind of push. You're going to see kind of the delay that happens here. They could have technically moved much sooner, and I'll explain why. Especially when you know that there was a team located over here, right? They move up. They have the advantage numbers wise, right? They do have the advantage and they're hitting them like right here at this point. 2 flush, you know you have the numbers advantage. So just move up. Jump pad, this is where we use jump pad, Maggie ball, and just run forward onto this, right? We know one's running away. So one is running away. There's the Maggie ball. It's a little late. It's not in the right direction. While you have cover here, why not just go for it? You know, get them out, because remember I had said on the other side here that, you know, every delay really matters, right? Now, also knowing when your teammates use a utility, because even though the Valkyrie or use the tactical, the Watson Gen was down. They do have an evac to get ahead. But remember, it's important to realize who ran away and how many people are remaining. So we have 1. So this could have been cleaned up a little faster, because if you look at the clock, we probably could have garnered at least 5 more seconds. It's important to take things slow, but when you have the advantage there and you're as a team. Okay, so we see here, what is this? This is a Bangalore, which is not a Valkyrie. So we're seeing a lot of aggression. This is where I say, okay, your teammates are far. You're pushed up. You know this is not a Valkyrie. So that tells you this is a brand new team. You've done a lot of damage, but you're standing out in the open. Potentially, there could be a team opponent there and opponent there. Now, your teammates are moving up, and you're standing out in the open still, which is okay to maintain pressure and aggression, but maintaining that, this is what can happen, right? Because now we have the Newcastle wall, and now we're standing out in the open again, which is kind of strange. But that's where you take things one step at a time. They flew in, I think, realizing, okay, maybe it's a Valkyrie, but if you do damage, where are your teammates? How is their location? You could be positioned playing aggressive, but where are your teammates? And then when do you slow down, right? So another thing that could have happened here, they got the knock, but they need to res immediately or push forward. So because there's a hesitation, those few seconds matter, and the zone is now closed. But every second really does matter, because now there are a few seconds to letting them reset too. So the faster you are in your resets, the more you can fight for the better positioning, and that's going to be your overall goal. Let's take a look here. Yeah, and this is a 3v1 at this point. And I know they're taking this angle. I mean, they're just caught out right in the open. There's just... it ain't going to work out. And that's it. It's done. And they push forward. And I guess it's pretty much bye-bye Octane. Yeah, they're using utility to push forward. I mean, I would push too. It's 3v1. But also, as they're doing it, they have zone behind them. They have to move forward. It makes sense. Positioning, positioning, positioning. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, I promise to do them more like this. I just feel like I'm finally finding... Listen, I'm always trying to improve content here on the channel. I could always do better. and I've been piecing things together, and hopefully this has been a lot more enjoyable for you guys. Bye-bye, Octane. Don't run a straight line. If you've ever seen Game of Thrones, don't walk in a straight line. Duck and weave, at least, you know, curve, you know, move around a little bit so you're a little harder to hit. All that's helpful. We have 3 squads remaining. We know that they're in a good spot. We know that the Octane, if we're going to run into somebody else, they would have seen them. So statistically, they're pretty much just all up height up there. See how it plays out, though. I don't even remember who wins, to be honest. Okay, flush. That tells you they're in it. You can move up, and also in the kill feed, you see a trade. So you can move up. Now, when you move up, I would encourage immediately hitting your Revolt. An interesting thing happens here is that Rev doesn't pop their ult right away and move up. And when they do, you're going to see they let that timer run, and they're shooting at ranged. When you have your ult, you want to maximize on it, especially when you saw kills in the feed, to encourage your teammates to kind of move forward. Suppressing fire can be fine. In this instance, you know that they left, so there's no reason to keep shooting, especially if you have your ultimate. You actually have a higher health pool because of the ultimate, so maximize on that. Or hold it, because now you don't have it. Also, if you know your teammate's fighting, and hopefully if they're in comms, then you know to communicate with them. Now, they get the knock, but unfortunately they go down to zone. Unfortunate. But they do get a res. But luckily, I guess you could say the Revenant is in the angle, but Revenant is also your entry, so you would want to have them first and foremost, especially if they just popped their ultimate, which they didn't really get much use out of. So that's why it's always the question, like, when did you pop your ultimate? Or what were you planning on doing there? Good that they didn't repeat that. They do have height. The Ashe is in a rough spot. Good ult to reposition here. A little risky, a little rough there. All right, let's see. Now, they have more of the kills. They command more of the space right now. I mean, they should win. It's debatable. Okay, that Valkyrie should definitely have been punished for climbing up by herself. That was very bold of the Valkyrie. Taking a 1v3 up there. The team down below can throw grenades up and try to find like a Skynade and just blast them out. That would be kind of nice to do. There's that option. They do take some angles here. There's a Skynade, so they are trying to find an opening themselves. This is really scary. The damage does go out. Pretty close. Woo. All right. And there's a knock. Now it's a 3v2. Now they got to move forward. I mean, they got to make sure they don't get that res, which I don't think they will. And then they should win this. And that's it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. 3v2. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It's definitely longer. Way longer. So I just hope that you enjoyed the 3v1. Hopefully you enjoyed the better format. Hopefully I improved upon it and I did it better. It's truly spectating. Right? I think we kind of nailed it. I think we kind of did it. I try to do some solves and also make it a lot more fun and engaging, but also teach a whole lot. Wasn't meant for win sitting, but I appreciate you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe again. See you guys all in the next one. Bye, everybody.